I could not have said it better myself. Nothing can compare to the ones you love. Wait a minute. I wrote that song. I did say it. But I do love everyone, and I love our guest tonight. We're going to bring him on a minute. And I love my producer, director, and sometimes co host. She'll be joining us in 15 minutes. Happy Monday, everybody. Welcome to TCB Studios. Welcome to Burn It Down. I hope everyone has had a beautiful day and is having a beautiful night. I want to give a shout out to my brother Julio Morales. I love the new single that you dropped today. This gentleman that we are having on tonight is a friend, but so much more than that to me. He's been on our show before. He's been a confidant, and I believe that we've just been there for each other. Times that we both didn't even know we needed it. Said the right things. He said the right things to me. I hope I've said the right things to him. It's been just an easy relationship. And like Renee, I can't believe it. I still haven't met him in person. We are going to change that this year. I certainly hope. But let's bring him on because I want to get into it. I want to get serious and talk about important things, but I want us all to have fun. That's the idea. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome my brother, Dan Falkenthal.
Hey, Tom. Good to see you.
Oh, and also I wanted to say one of my favorite speaking voices. And there's an art to that. You just have this voice that brings me up, and it's like doing this, getting this B12 shot. But also when I'm tired, I can go to sleep to it, and that is a talent.
I appreciate that dearly, very much.
How you doing, brother? You look wonderful.
Thank you. I'm doing great today. I'm here. How can I complain?
You look wonderful. I was chatting. I got a message from my brother Julio. Everyone check out Julio Morales' new single that came out today. And he sent me the nicest note. He goes, Dan's magic. I go, Dan is magic with a capital M. So shout out to Julio. I'm so glad to see you. And I really do mean it because we were talking last week. And the whole idea about this show is just wonderful conversation. We never put each other down. We always lift each other up. But we were chatting, and it was a very real text, which is all we have. And I mentioned to you that I was in this rut, and even worse than that, not the best place. And I could hear the compassion in your text. It was like I heard your voice in your text. But you said, Tom, I had a feeling. Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? And I go, I'm better now, you know. But thank you for that. I really do believe there have been these magical times that somehow something came over in the air to meet him where I was at or you to you, and we reached out to each other when we both, none of us realized we needed it.
I couldn't agree more. And I'm grateful that I was able to be there for you at a time of need as you have been there plenty of time for me as well. That's what it's all about.
It really is. We were talking backstage in the virtual green room, and when you set a tone for something, I just realized now I'm so glad that we do burn it down. So thank you to everyone watching on CCTV. Again, thank you so much to Renee Yaworski. You are my hero. I'm so glad that our subconscious told us to do the show on Monday nights because I think Monday, as much as we all hate them, there's been songs written about it. I don't like Mondays. Monday might be the most important day of the week because if you get out of bed, the wrong side of the bed, or if you're in this bad mood, or you allow things to kick our asses mentally and physically and just spiritually, it really could set the tone and maybe ruin your whole week.
Correct. It's crazy how much we let get to ourselves. It's crazy how much the start of the week we dread, but we already know it's coming. It's
Right.
like dreading the same holiday each year and seeing family, whether we love them dearly or they're a pain. It's repeated history, and when we know it's coming, it's even worse to let it get to us. Um,
Right.
Quoting Seneca, we suffer more in our imagination than anywhere else.
Yeah.
Imagination is one of the greatest things ever, but to also recognize that it's not necessarily a great place to stay is also, a good thing to know.
Absolutely. That's so important. And the thing is and we're all so far from perfect. I've been able to give some friends some spiritual advice and mental advice over the years, and then walked away and not taken my own advice. And I've been sad and a mess, and it makes me think about depression because it's a very real thing that I've battled for most of my adult life. And it's like we we get we torture ourselves sometimes because we get it. We can be our worst enemies. We give to everyone else. We are givers. We are givers. We are givers, and we're selfless. But then what do? We take and take and take from ourselves and drain ourselves because we get in our own head, and we're just destroying ourselves. No, on top of that, beating ourselves up. I beat myself up for things over the years that I know I'm like, wait, that was out of my hands. Why did I do that?
Right there with you. It's crazy how simple it is, and yet how easy it is to let it get to ourselves.
Yeah, it really is. And we met, for any of you fine folks who saw the first time Dan and I spoke, I really feel like we're just like men who've been to war together. But we met on a few panels through Punk Rock Saves Lives, which is a charity that you work with that I love to help out anytime I can. Absolutely love all of those folks. And besides you, I've met 25 other beautiful people through that organization. And so you guys did so much wonderful work because you had these helplines and these live streams and these Zoom meetings to help people who were battling this depression. And on top of that, musicians and artists who were going through this. And it's like, yeah, we're here for people to do this, but also then we're suffering, And it leads me to think that I wanted to talk about tonight with you depression. And when we get ourselves into these ruts, what kind of exercises have you found? What things work, whether it be physical or mental or both of them? I mean, sometimes just listening to a podcast and going for a long walk or a bike ride can really, you can get out of that funk, whatever you were in.
Correct. No, absolutely. For me, it's sticking to a routine,
Oh, right.
and it's trial and error. All of it. It's getting that balance in between, and figuring out what you want to do. Because if you're doing something forcefully you don't want to do, it's never going to be an enlightenment, idea or source. For me, I
Right.
do as much as I can. I do a 6 a.m. jog for about 3 miles every morning. Throw on the headphones, throw on whatever jam I'm feeling, whether it's heavy metal, whether it's post-hardcore, or all the reggae I send this man right here weekly.
I was gonna say, you send me probably 2 songs a week with like lions and these Zen-like cartoons and the sun bursting, and you say, if you're having a bad day, hope this lifts you up, and it always does. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I stick with that. Sticking with routine, throw on the music. The biggest way is also to, nourish ourselves. We don't do it enough, whether it's eating healthy, whether it's what we consume, whether what it's we see, the time we spend online, switching that out to being social in any way, shape, or form you can possible is, prime and key. And,
Right.
the more that you find that balance through it all, the better off you're going to be in the end.
Yes, yeah. I've thought about this for a long time, and I'm someone who also always fears. You and I have had these wonderful conversations on the phone, lifting each other up, and it's like I always fear about like when like things are going pretty fantastic right now, but I always fear like the other shoe is going to drop, and it's like, Tom, why are you worried about that? When that happens, you'll deal with it. Like, enjoy this now. What is wrong with you? And it's like, well, and the shoe might not drop, or it might not drop for 6 months or a year. Enjoy this ride. Trust the process. And it's these important things. And I appreciate that from you, but also what I've learned over the years, and it's not that long. It's like only 6 or 7 years that I've learned it. It's like people always used to say, know your strengths, know your strengths. Yeah, that's important. How about know your weaknesses? I know that I can't get to in this place because then it's all downhill from there. You know what I mean? And like you said, you're talking about getting in these routines. I know this. I'm bad at not having a schedule. I'm bad at not being busy. That's why I work 50 hours a week, but I was able to go away this weekend for a few days and go to the mountains. And it was wonderful. And tomorrow morning at 5 a.m., my busy schedule starts again. And it's like, I realized, well, I'm good at being a creature of habit and having a lot to do, like a schedule and someone who texts me and says, you got to be here at 5 o'clock, and then I'm bad at having free time. I mean, don't they say idle time is the devil's best friend?
Bingo.
I don't need that,
No. No, and it's so easy to get into, falling off the surface of what we're used to. But the biggest thing to remember in those moments is to not beat yourself up over it.
Right.
The last thing you want to do, if you wouldn't tell a friend the words you tell yourself, then don't tell yourself those things. It's never going to help, and it's only going to bring you down further instead of lift you up.
Right. Yeah. And we talk about that as well. And I love that. It's like, and it's certainly a lot of the themes in the music. We talk about punk rock and punk rock saving life. And it's like, no, these words are not saying I'm pissed at the system. It's about fixing the system and never pushing people down, but lifting people up. And whether you're a Christian, or you were raised in Catholicism or Protestant or Buddhism, or even if you're agnostic or even if you're atheist, I think all of it comes from people should hope for this golden rule, like be as kind to your neighbor or treat people the way you hope that you would be treated, and you can have a great life.
I couldn't have said that better if I tried, Tom.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it's something that if we practice, hopefully enough people will start doing it too,
Correct. You got to do you, and you got to do what's right in your path, and the rest will follow.
I absolutely love it. Absolutely. Well, you look fantastic. So I could tell that mentally and physically, you've been doing these runs with listening to a podcast with the headphones and feeling really good.
Yeah, it's indescribable. It really is. Being physically active is a game changer with dopamines and all the above. It honestly rewires your brain, and
it does.
When you are able to do it daily, like you would journaling, like you would writing, like you would doing what all of you do here, it helps center yourself out. And that's the biggest thing that I don't think any of us do enough of is, we think that we're finding this end. We think that we're finding this, end to the trail, when that's not how any of this works. And,
right.
Taking that step back more often and realizing that is what's going to give us, the light that we've been looking for.
That PMA every day. I want to thank you for turning me on to the Rich Roll podcast. And if we could share with anyone viewing, Rich Roll has an incredible story. And I haven't reached out to him, but right now I'm still just in awe of his interviews. But, he had, a pretty good life already, but he certainly, I think, beat himself up physically at times. And one day he just woke up and said, I'm not going to do it anymore. And with that, he said he wasn't going to drink either. And he just has a plant-based diet. But he doesn't judge anyone who doesn't do that, but he just has these encouraging words, and he talks about the stuff that we're talking about right now, and he is absolutely fantastic.
He's been a game changer in my life for the past year in recovery. Not anything in recovery in the sense that many would assume, but getting out of your own rut recovery, and that's right. Where I've always been. And as Tom said, Rich Roll has been a massive game changer with enlightenment, with finding different paths and ways in life that one may not assume, because sometimes we overdo our own path and we don't realize there's many other ways to go to get that goal we're searching for.
Yeah, I was so excited to see that he interviewed a friend of mine, Mishka Shubali, who's a comedian and a musician, and I guess they know each other well and they run together and talk, and I was so excited, and I was like, boy, I'm only one step. Was it the 6 degrees? I'm 1 degree away from Rich Roll. I do need to reach out to him. I'm not ready right now. I'm still just listening to his podcast. But I love what we're doing here tonight, and I have some more things I want to talk about. But one of my favorite things about this show is, and everything that we do is this organic thing about letting things change naturally. And I was getting into a rut even with the show, and I was like, what do I do next? And I go, I know what I'm going to do. 15 minutes in, I got this beautiful lady who's a badass to become a co-host and join the conversation. So Drum roll, please. Renee Yaworski.
Thank
What?
you. What? We're gonna burn it down. Thank you.
P-
I'm so
PMA every
grateful.
day, and I choose awesome, and
PMA.
punk rock saves lives, and all of the above. And you guys have met before, and that's the other thing. And I met a bunch of people this weekend that I never met before, and that was really nice. And some of them just came up to me. I was at a show, I was in the mountains, and some of them were just fans of mine, and that was absolutely wonderful. And we chatted, and a few of them I realized we're not that different. Maybe, I play music and you don't, but just talking. And I said, when you find these magical things you have in common with people, that's your foundation. That's the 4 foot slab of concrete. You could build a beautiful church or a house or a fire department from there. And the three of us have this thing that's very similar. Renee, you are a magician at it. We're kind of facilitators, and we not only have done so well when we meet each other, we know how to introduce people to each other. Dan has introduced me to people, and Renee, you've done the same for me, and I feel great that I've introduced you to.
Of course. Yeah, we're
Very
connectors,
much.
And I want
Yeah.
to talk a little bit about social stuff because Tom was talking a little bit earlier about how concerned he is that for some people
Yes.
the quarantine era became metastasized in their brain, and it's almost like these are limitations now where people are not wanting to evolve. And we're not talking about anyone with chronic medical problems or
Right.
people who,
Exactly.
and those people existed before COVID as well, so we're not talking about that, but people who maybe just are limiting themselves because of their
Right.
their brain. Maybe they've been trained. Or for me, I know when we talk about ruts, I am a creature of habit. If I can
Yeah.
change my habits, I can evolve. That's one of my things is like the more that I continually do something, the more I'm apt to continue to do that. That's like this, an
Right.
inertia really settles in. That's why I'm in this thing now where I'm constantly trying to evolve and be out of my comfort zone. I don't want to ever
I
keep
love
staying
it.
in my comfort zone because it's really scary. And I
I
have a
love that.
and I have a friend named Olive Chiachia. She's an actress,
Love
and
Olive. Hi, Olive.
she's amazing, and she's dealt with all kind of chronic illnesses and all of that, and she's a very brave person. But I remember her saying to me, because when quarantine ended, she took a lot of risks and she started going out, and now she's taking the world by storm, of course. And she said to me, Renee, letting COVID stop you from doing everything means you've died of COVID. And I let
Wow.
that sink in, and I thought,
Wow.
"Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm spending all of this
Go
time being
Olive.
afraid of dying
Very
of
nice.
COVID, but if I'm already putting myself in the coffin and not doing anything,
Yeah.
not allowing myself." But that's also life. Like, take it out of COVID.
Yeah.
In life, we have
Yes.
to take risks. In life, we have to evolve. And this is the thing I want to drop in front of you guys and hear what you guys are going to say about this. Keeping a positive social crew
Oh,
around you, because
totally.
relationships can dictate so much of your future. If you are surrounding
Oh my
yourself with people
goodness.
who refuse to allow you to grow because they don't want you to change or it's an inconvenience for them, or if
Wow.
they're constantly being negative, I've seen people be crippled mentally and never grow. I've seen people totally go behind closed doors, literally
Yeah.
and figuratively, because they chose the wrong people to allow
Right.
access to their lives. So, can you talk a
Yeah.
little bit about the
Yeah.
importance
Well,
of positive social
yes,
people,
I
social
can,
relationships?
but I really want to let our guests get into it. But that reminds me, I saw this thing this weekend. I don't know if it was a meme, but it was a statement that a dear friend of mine that I'm very fond of. She's a very beautiful person that I've known forever. But within minutes, I saw people sharing it, and strangers I don't even know, people I don't know sharing it, and it just said, "Be careful, and maybe you shouldn't be close to someone who's best friends with that doesn't like you." And I was like, wow. Like it took me a minute to even understand that because there's, life happens. Sometimes, I'm not close to someone anymore, but then if they think that I did something or maybe they did something to me, but yet someone that I love is with them all the time, well, it's inevitable. They're probably going to be saying these toxic things about me. And maybe
Of
I don't
course.
need to have that even in my sphere, and I know I'm super lucky and you guys are part of it, the people that I talk to and we text each other and build each other build each other up regularly. But I also have 5 or 6 beautiful people in my life that I talk to every day. My younger brother, my sister, my assistant, and then beautiful musician friends. But I'm super grateful for it, and I know it is 100% vital in my life, in our life. What do you say about that, Dan?
Man, you both are dead on the point. I think one of the worst things societally is that, the world makes you feel as if you need to have this large group of friends that, within after high school or college, within after your 20s to 30s, that you need to have this large group of friends to rely on, when that's not the goal. The goal is to have a tight-knit group you can count on and rely on, as well as they can rely on you. Whether they know you inside and out is through your stories, through your pain and suffering, and through your scars that you show. And that shows your true self on whether or not they'll stay. And the one thing that I've learned through my only 28 years of life is, within the past 2 years, my group has gotten even smaller than ever before. And though it's great to miss times, it's never great to repeat them.
Oh,
more or less
wow.
with those people. And you'll never look back on those types of situations, no matter how close you are. So keeping that close friend group that Tom's exactly talking about is key, because we can all scroll through our Messenger, we can all scroll through our Facebook, through our Instagram, and through even our simple phone contact list. But let's be honest, there's going to be 3 to 5 people that will actually care to comment, that we're going to actually care to reach out to any deeper level. It's very rare that we have more than that.
Oh, and I also forgot to tell you, viewers, that Dan is the oldest and wisest young man I've ever met in my life.
I know. I couldn't believe when he said that, because he looks so young, but his brain is so.
You're such a shaman to me, and you've given me such advice, and I'm like, because when I was your age, I thought I knew so much, and I knew SHIT. I knew nothing. Now I think I know a little bit of something. That's so important. Yeah, I don't know why we have to. My friend Mike Sheena calls it white Christian guilt that our parents put on us when we're younger. But it's like, yes, you should have that group of 40 friends. You need to be married, have these kids, and have the white picket fence, and a mailbox with a strawberry hanging out of it, and 2 puppies. It's like, no. Find your solace, find what works for you. And I believe it was it may have been Socrates, but I may be wrong. That's the best thing about this show. Sometimes we just talk, and I didn't Wikipedia it. But I believe if it was one of the beautiful philosophers said, if you have 4 or 5 incredibly close, wonderful friends, you're going to die a rich man.
Yes.
And that I agree with completely.
Going off of that really quick, as a subtle reminder, there is no rule book. There is nothing.
Right.
Like Tom just said, there's a lot of societal norms that have happened through the ages, through the years, that, we'll tell ourselves, well, that's just how it's supposed to go. And it's like, no, it's not. You're allowing your book to be written by someone else. You're letting somebody else pick up the pen and paper, when you have all the right to be doing whatever you're doing, as long as it doesn't harm yourself and others along the way.
Goodness, I could not have said that better myself.
I wanted to say that because I wanted to talk with you. It's so interesting. You must have read my mind, because I wanted to talk about narrative and the power of narrative and owning your narrative. And also the fact that there's no one size fits all, not among even just people, but even yourself in your day. You do not have to stick to the exact same routines that you came. You don't have to adhere to even the same the rubric of life that you assign to.
Right.
You have to give yourself permission to change. And I know that's hard sometimes, because you feel like, oh no, that's really scary. This change is just terrifying. But you have to listen to, I think, your psyche, your body, and you need different things in different eras of your life. Even different times of the day, you need different things. So I think it's so important for people to not hear somebody else's story and then think, I have to do exactly what they did. Because your path is your path.
Yeah, I've had people, and we probably have all here had this, and then I'm sure viewers have had this. I've had people try to make me feel guilty for not having children, and I've been like, oh, that's a real nice Christian way to talk to me, or and I'm like, listen, if that would have happened and I had kids, I would do my best to be the best damnedest dad in the world, but that didn't happen. So I'm a great uncle to my nieces, and I love children, and I believe they are the future, and that's why I work with charities to help children. art programs and music programs, and it's such a weird thing that we can get into that funk, or someone just puts that in your brain, and then all of a sudden, like we talked about earlier, then oh boom, we're doomed. It's in our brain, so we're just going to think about it, and we shouldn't.
Yeah, we try to compare and we try to it's really dangerous to listen to other voices when you have your own inner dialogue and your own inner mission that's telling you what you feel. And I think there becomes a tension when people are trying to superimpose their journey onto yours, and you know it's not correct, but you also are now feeling some kind of a guilt or shame because you don't really know how to talk about that. And this is something that really can ruin lives or create lives, is how you deal with
Right.
and how you stand
Right.
up for yourself. You have to be able to stand up for yourself.
Yeah, because you talked about that beautiful person who we don't even know that the damage has been done. Then they close the door, and they could be spiritually or mentally dead for the next 2 weeks, and you're just in this sad state. And it's like, man, think about this, man, because Joe Strummer says, two of my favorite quotes. Well, he's got a bunch of great quotes, but the future is unwritten, because we
Yes.
can do whatever we want. And also, without people, we're nothing. Without you guys, I'm nothing. And without us, everyone else is nothing. It's like we're all in this together. That's why we say we're all in this together in any kind of weather. We build each other up, never break people down. I mean, honestly, I could live my life just to Bad Religion lyrics. Seriously. I'll build you up like a skyscraper, but I'll never tear you down. Those are my goals in life.
Absolutely.
Man, perfectly said. That screams you.
That's
Like,
very
I mean, it really, well, it screams you guys as well. And what's really wonderful is, and we were talking about this with Chad last week. Shout out to Chad. I absolutely loved our conversation last week.
me
And the
too.
subject of punk rock came up, and then Renee came on. And by the way, this is my new favorite episodes. When Renee comes on and joins it, it just makes it so much more
Thank
special.
you.
But Renee was saying, because we're all these different ages and stuff, but it's like, she's like, I can't believe it has this like negative stigma to it. Everyone I know that's involved in punk rock are beautiful people doing charity work and trying to help people.
Yeah, the kindest, most compassionate people are punk rock. That is, being punk rock is giving back to the community.
Yeah, exactly.
I was always told that it's always like being in a band of misfits. It's being the misfits on the island with all the toys, and we're all just trying to find our way and our voices along the way. And as long as we're together, we're always going to find that voice. We just got to keep that,
Yeah.
keep our minds open for it.
Well, that was
Yeah.
a beautiful segue. You think we planned this? I actually have notes because this episode is so important to me, and I wanted to talk about. I'll talk about a few of my things in a minute, but I want to hear from Renee and then Dan. How important to our building ourselves up is. This is like three things in one: writing in a journal, writing poems, discovering a mantra like to say every day, and then eventually maybe even turning them into songs. Because Dan and I have been working on songs together. Actually, that's another thing we've been doing. Can you guys talk about that?
Want to take it
Okay.
away?
Well, absolutely, absolutely. And one of the reasons why I think it's important to find, I mean, I've even been sketching recently,
Oh,
just,
I love it. I love it.
before bed, even sketching, even though like I don't feel I'm a great talent or anything, but it's something that brings me great joy. And I think one of the things that art does for us is it keeps us in tune and honest with ourselves as we are growing. So when we were talking about narrative or being your authentic self, you find out who you are sometimes through your art. How many times have you guys been writing song lyrics or poems or
Right,
like a journal entry? And by the end of it, you realize something new about yourself that you didn't even know when you went into
right.
that creation. So for me, I think it's a deeper journey into your
Yeah,
psyche and your consciousness and finding out who you are. And then also being okay with, or actually encouraging yourself to progress and even change day by day and say, wow, I didn't know I could write a song like that. I didn't even know I felt that way. Wow.
right.
So for
Because
me, that's,
all because of your stream of consciousness, you allowed yourself to write something down, like the thought at that moment.
yeah, exactly. Dan?
Wow. What do you think, Dan?
Son of a gun. That was just very eloquently said.
Thank you,
Mm,
Dan.
First off, because that's about dead on how I think as well. It's a way it's an escape, and it's
mhm.
just like you were talking about with comfort zones earlier. It's good to have that escape. It's a good way to bring in the day, center yourself, and kind of figure out who you are, because, I think one thing for me is I never want to know who I am, because that's kind of stating that there's an end to it.
Right.
And,
Right. Wow. Yeah.
That's profound. I
so
love
when it comes, thank you. When it comes to journaling, when it comes to reading, you find more that you're into, and there's too many things that we set aside and say, I'll make time. Well, then make it, because
that.
you have all the time you need, but you haven't set it aside. And when it comes to journaling, it's expanding our minds, it's learning about ourselves. Like you said, it's realizing that you are maybe a little bit sophisticated more than you tell yourself, or that you have a fluid with words that you can, there's just so much to it that it's endless, and there's nothing better for me. After Ryan Holiday, who has been doing a wonderful job with bringing stoicism to modern day, there's a journal that I've been doing ever since he introduced it to me, called One Line a Day. Simply,
Wow.
there's 4 lines for 5 years, to simply write down in a journal your thought of the morning.
Wow. I
So
love
it's one of those things to state that there is no excuse. You don't have to write 2-3 pages. There's no
Right.
pressure, but you can remember where you were at on that day. And it's been a beautiful game changer for myself.
Man, I'm going to do that. And you're absolutely right. On a Monday, maybe like, hey, this Monday wants to kick my ass. I'm not going to let it. But then the Tuesday thing might be like, it's a new day. I just did 50 push-ups. I'm ready to do this. Whatever it might be.
Yeah, that's dead on.
That is
Absolutely.
amazing. I mean,
That is cool.
and I actually love that you said that. That is, it's really deep, and I love that all three of us get into this and flirt with. I actually said in the post before you people you find beautiful cucumbers joined is I want to get very serious, but let's have fun with it, and because that is what life is, and before you know it, it's going to be gone. So let's enjoy it and maybe leave a little bit of a legacy. These great interviews, a few songs, and Dan and I have been working on some ideas for songs of his. And boy, he writes some dark, beautiful stuff. And I'm like, well, is this really you, or is this what you were thinking that day? Because I think you flirt with these thoughts, but also you're this wonderful. You're very fine with being this wonderful riddle that you haven't even figured yourself completely out, because we're all these works in progress.
Correct. No, that's dead on. I greatly appreciate that, Tom. Yeah, no, I through the darkest moments of my life, I quit writing about 5-6 years ago, and finally got back into it because of this man right here. And I keep a journal called just simply One Lines, which is when a rhyming scheme enters my head, I'll write it down, because you can't state that it'll come back to you, and it might only appear for that moment, and a very high percentage of the time it will. So it's best that you jot down every thought, every note that you may have, not excessively, but enough that you can create something wonderful and magical out of it. And ever since Tom and I have been going back and forth, it's definitely helped my mental health on a daily basis.
Yeah, I
I
believe that.
love that. And you know what I also love is that how the three of us we certainly can be very serious and respect each other, but we also have wicked sense of humor and don't take ourselves too seriously. Like for
That's true.
instance, last night I was in the mountains in Asheville, North Carolina, and there was this beautiful, dark, insane wind, electrical rainstorm happening. And let's just say, I knew I was in a place that I had enough of whatever I was doing last night, and all my friends are still hanging out. It's like not even 10 o'clock, and I'm like, I'm gonna walk out of this venue, down this hill 4 blocks to my hotel. But like I said, I was having a good time throughout the day. So mentally, it took everything I could to like not trip, not fall,
Yeah.
not slip in the rain. Let's just say I enjoyed the spirits that were flowing all day. That's maybe. And so I'm walking, and I'm literally looking at everything that I don't step in a pothole. And then I just see something, and I'm like, what is that on the ground? And it's this crumpled up, soaking wet $5 bill. And I pick it up, and
Wow.
I go, man, well, D always says finding a dime is good luck. A $5 bill is got really good luck. So I'm walking the next 3 blocks, and I'm singing. I go, if I look at this and look at the ground and I sing, I'll make it to my hotel without falling. And so I start going, I found a $5 bill. I found a $5 bill. And then I jumped 2 feet over and I became someone else. I pointed to where I was and I go, he found a $5 bill. He found a $5 bill. And I woke up this morning and I finished the song about walking through the
Oh,
mountain and thinking, and it's good luck to find a $5 bill.
yeah, it is. I love that.
Nice.
It
That is
feels
awesome.
so
I can't
good.
wait to hear the full production.
Yes,
Right?
and it's just like it's the best thing, and that's what makes me go to the next point on this list that we all have, and everyone is going to have these different thoughts on this, and I hope we have people commenting on this, because what works for you, and then what have you been able to say on this creature of habit, like you both said, what works for you, and then you continue when you find things that are therapeutic. Like Dan talked about something simple like going for a run, or like I went for a hike the other day and had the earbuds on listening to the Dirty Three, which is a lot of times I listen to beautiful instrumental music because then I write my own spoken word pieces and songs over that. But boxing, kickboxing,
Yeah,
swimming,
definitely.
surfing, going for a run, riding a bicycle. I know Renee is a drummer. Banging on drums is
Yeah.
very therapeutic. What have you done and what works for you to get out of these ruts that we're in and then say, wait a minute, now the endorphins, the drugs inside of me have taken over and I'm next level and I'm good again.
So for me, I working with my sister-in-law, who's big with mental health and is a counselor herself, is having, as weird as this sounds, there's for her and myself, as we've talked, there's like 5 pillars for it, and that's emotional, mental, physical, spiritual, and social. And we do our best. We've made a list that I can share, but it's trying to aim to do one of those things a day. So if it's emotional, could be journaling, could be self-care, resting without guilt, breathing exercises, identifying yourself for the day. Mentally, doing something that's hobby practicing. Doesn't mean you have to be good at it, just means you can start it up again or start something new.
Right.
Focus on your goals and positivity. To physical, simple stretching, eating a nourishing meal, getting an actual good night's rest. To even spiritual. One thing that we always don't do enough of is connecting with nature. Daily meditation, cultivating an emotional intelligence, and something social, simply chatting with friends as we are this evening. To complimenting a stranger, sitting at a coffee shop, practice listening even. Her and I talk about this weekly, and we try to, not forcefully, because that never works well in anything in life, but per se, but, trying to aim to do one of those things a day. And that's what definitely centers me, is having those lists and kind of not checking off, but kind of mentally checking off and saying, I did that today. I haven't really done anything. It's 5 p.m. on a Saturday. Maybe I'll go to a coffee shop. Maybe I'll throw in an earbud. Maybe I'll have a conversation with a stranger, compliment their band shirt, and start a conversation for the evening. Who knows? But that's how it works.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes, if you would not mind emailing and sharing that with Renee and I, we will share that with our
Please,
viewers.
thank you.
I
Yes.
mean,
Thank
in 2012, when I moved back to New York, all the way to around 2014, by then I was doing a lot better. But that first year, I was battling some serious mental health and depression. And I started taking some online courses and even reading just a ridiculous amount of self-help books. And one thing I wanted to mention earlier, and it's just so simple. If you don't do anything and work hard for something, well, then it costs you nothing, you know. But if you really put your 100% into everything and just your whole body and your whole process, and you trust that process and you do everything you can, and then when you get what you are looking to do, even if it's really small goals like putting out a 7-inch record or something, think about how worth it is because you put everything you have into it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. I do think that focus is something. I mean, when you look at the people that we respect, anyone who's in the history books or anyone that we're talking about, absolutely they're going to be someone who was almost obsessed with their craft or obsessed with whatever they
Right.
were doing, right? They get obsessive. They're passionate about, depends which word you want to
Yeah.
use. but they
Yeah.
absolutely, they have that inner drive, and they follow through. What I love what Dan was talking about sounds really holistic to me, because I think one of the
Hmm.
things that causes disharmony and a lot of restlessness and even self-loathing in us sometimes, and shame, is when the different parts of our human experience, so like the Dan was talking about the spiritual, connection to nature, maybe your heart, your mind, your body, when those things, when we don't connect them together, and when those things are at war, like we talk about, maybe our physical desires are taking care of our physical body, we're
Hmm.
shameful, maybe our heart is shameful of that for some reason, instead of being in harmony with that, or our opinions, we do something where we're ashamed of our thoughts, or we
Right.
don't want to state our needs, maybe we are just ashamed of ourselves. We have to connect all of us together, the heart, mind, body, soul, because it is all connected. Even our medical is connected with our emotional center.
Everything.
Even gut health is a part of your
Oh,
emotional well-being now, they're
you
finding, right?
you're finished. That's the beauty of our conversations. We're
I know, we're
finishing it.
like on the same page all
We're
the time,
finishing
aren't
it.
we?
We're finishing each other's
Yeah,
sandwiches. I mean, we're finishing each other's sentences because
yes.
because Dan has texted me before, and I love this, and I need to put it like on a big sticky, like written in big letters with Sharpie. And he goes, "There's a reason you have a gut. Trust it."
There you
Like,
go,
Yeah,
like
right.
exactly.
it's
Yes,
there
I
for
love
it's
that.
there for a it's there for
It's
a
there for
reason.
a
You know,
reason. Yeah,
and the thing is, you know, we know what's good for us.
yeah, we know what's
Sometimes
good
we
for
just
us.
don't want. Sometimes we just don't want to do that work, and it's very easy to come up with an excuse to not do it. Trust me, I'm a man who's had a million excuses. I'm trying not to have excuses these days. And it's so important. And healthy dialogue like this is ginormous, is
Yeah.
incredibly important. I'm smiling so much, and again, I have to thank you again for turning me on to Rich Roll. I don't know if you've ever listened to Rich
Yes,
Roll.
I have been
Yeah,
too. Yes, I
he's
have been too.
wonderful. And I mean,
100%.
I really see you know this healthy sea change, but like I mean, trying to do these new things with Burn It Down because, like I said, I've even been in a rut, and I love every episode. Every guest
Yeah,
has been
we're
so
all,
beautiful and so special. But I know I needed something extra, and I love that Renee is coming on with me
thank
and
you.
talking. And this right here has been, oh my goodness. I
It's
mean,
so good.
this has been a $10,000 episode. I mean, I'm just so
It's so
happy right
healthy
now.
for me.
And I
I
was
know.
so
I
and
feel
I
so
was
good
so
right
tired. I was so tired, beforehand because I've been traveling and stuff.
now. Mhm.
And right now I could like probably lift up this building. I could lift up a New York City bus right now. And I do have to say, Dan, you might be the most well-spoken man I know. Like,
Yes.
you're so intelligent, and when you talk, you say these things that make such sense to me, but only if I didn't, I wouldn't be, because if I talk quick, a lot of times I say the wrong things. You always say the right things, and I really appreciate it. And the charity work that you do, and I know I hope to continue our friendship relationship and us do more work together. Thank you for all you do, and I just think that you're going to be somebody that needs to be on more often so we can remind our viewers everything is going to be okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you both for the very, very kind and generous words. I am absolutely here at both your mercy, not a problem. I'm very
Oh,
grateful for the community you both have made because you both, to remind yourselves, by the way, you both are doing it, okay? You're doing the work. And I want to remind you both that specifically, as well as everybody else here, because we don't pat ourselves enough on the back during the process where we're reaching
Yeah.
an end goal that we think is going to be the finale. But right now, you're living it. And
Oh
you're,
man.
like Tom said, he wants to add more, take away more. Renee wants to as well. And in doing so, you find that niche that works. And when you find it, you're going to keep going with it. And that's the beauty
Yeah.
and that's within.
so true.
Yeah. Um, Man.
And Tom was right about your voice, by the way. It's energizing and soporific
Mhm.
and calming at the same time. Like, how do you do that?
I wish I know because I don't think I sound this way. So I really
You
Oh
do.
my
appreciate that
It's
for
goodness.
so
both of you.
great. I
Oh my
love
goodness.
it.
The first time Dan and I met, seriously, I was at my folks' house beginning of the pandemic, and we were on this like Zoom call with a lot of people. So people were still figuring out these tech gremlins like you went through when you first started CCTV and stuff. And so I'm in my folks' garage, which probably has a bad, connection. And I'm like literally, there's still so much we don't understand. I think I had my laptop set up on a garbage pail. I'm standing, the lights went out, and I'm talking, and we still all made this beautiful spiritual connection with each other. And half of it, none of us understood what each other were saying because the powers were going out.
Exactly.
That was the very first PMA session we ever had, and that's what kicked it off. Is thanks to you.
Oh man, listen, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone for watching. Thank you, Renee. I'm really loving. I'm a big fan of the term trust the process. I'm loving this process, and I will continue to trust it if you're my partner. You sent me a note. Actually, we were talking about this behind the scenes the other day, and I brought it up in the beginning, but like last week, man, just, some things got to me, man, and I wasn't good. And I'm good now, and I did what I had to do. I went for a run, and I put on a record, and I said, man, Dan has so many wonderful sayings, but one of them is don't sweat the small stuff, and if you allow it, all of it is small stuff, because the stuff that's out of your control is nothing you can do, And then literally after he and I having this wonderful texting correspondence, which was us almost sending each other like crying emojis, like sorry you've been down, but then it was happy emojis, and then big Rastafarian sunsets, and then we're sending each other Bob Marley music, But then Renee sends me this note, and it's a picture of me on a video or something, and she says, I love doing this with you. You're my hero. So you want to know something? I'm a rich man, and I feel so blessed, and my man Rory's going to be proud of me. We went over. I mean, the reality is, I mean, I really could probably continue this for 2 hours just talking to you guys right now. I mean, this is absolutely wonderful. We may do a Friday night session one day where I'm not drinking water, and we're having a couple of nice
beers. There you go. And I want to just say this really quickly. I want to say that Lorraine is in the crowd, and she said, thank you all for a wonderful show. It was like a big hug, and that's exactly how I feel.
Oh my goodness, yeah. And that's the thing. I know when we first started the show, I was adamant about not because I'm a work in progress. I'm learning as well. I was like, I don't want to do where I answer questions. I think at some point, especially if Renee, you're going to be on. Thank you, Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. Thank you for the comments. If we want to include people, we should totally talk to the beautiful cucumbers, the beautiful viewers, and if they're making comments and have questions, yes, we'd love to answer them. I know this. This right now, the past 45 minutes has been absolutely a slice of heaven. And thank you so much, Dan.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you both. Thank you for having this platform and allowing friends and family like myself to have a voice, because without it, wouldn't be anything. So thank you.
Well, hang on for 1 minute after we go off stage so we can talk backstage. And all of you beautiful people, we will see you next week. And everyone, take care of yourselves and have a wonderful week. And don't let a bad Monday get